Hi, good evening, everyone. Allow me to introduce my assistant or my partner for this show. Here she is. Good evening. How you doing? How you doing, Angela? Pretty good. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, good, good, good.
All right.
Yes, so it's been kind of chilly here. It's been the 20s here. I'm just trying to stay warm for the most part. Can you hear me now, Crafty and
You sound pretty
Chris?
good on this.
Okay. All right. I'm Chris and everybody can hear me. And it's been kind of chilly up here in Ohio. And it's been in the 20s. So cold, but not a whole lot of snow. We just had a light dusting of snow, and they said we're going to get some more, some snow coming our way. Which,
Sure.
no,
Sure.
wouldn't be surprised. I do live on a hill, so thankfully I work at home. It's optional to go out. So if it gets too bad, I just sit in the driveway. I'm not going to go anywhere until it's safe to go out.
Yeah,
How
we've had a
about
lot
you?
of. Oh, we've had plenty of snow here. In fact, we're supposed to get an ice storm, I believe, tonight at some point, which we're not looking forward to that. But if we get the ice storm, it's going to really make roads hazardous for travel and all that in the morning. But luckily for me, I got a lot of meetings and stuff to go to tomorrow, so I won't be on the roads. So I got kind of a blessing that way, like doing a lot of indoor work. But yeah, we sure as heck don't want the snow. And tonight we're going to be talking about dreams and various things, and a lot and a lot about dreams because I really want to get into the topic of how much spirits and even ETs can communicate with you in dreams. Even past family members, they can come to your dreams and communicate with you. I've had dreams where I've been given messages from from spirit guides, ET family, and even just family members that I've lost over the years that came to me and gave me messages in dreams. And sometimes dreams can be even a little bit scary and different things that maybe you don't like. They're not pleasant, but they help to steer you in the right direction to where your path in life needs to be. You can have dreams that can be downright frightful in some ways, but then you wake up and maybe because of that frightfulness or that memory of your dream that can propel you where you need to be for that day or even that part of your life. And for example, I've had dreams before where I've had, but like just the other night, I had a dream that was very frightful. I was being chased and even going to be killed. And then when I came back from the dream, um, I realized some of the stuff I'd been worried about that day became more clear because I realized the path I needed to take. It helped clear it all up. So sometimes dreams can be scary, but they lead you in the right direction. And
Right.
what do you think, Angela?
Yes, they need you in the right direction, and there's different levels of dreams. For a long time, I was very interested in studying dreams, the psychological, the spiritual aspect, and there's different levels of dreams. So there's a dream where it's just, oh, it's your end of the day. You're blowing off steam. You're kind of recalling through that day. Then there are dreams about your inner self, your inner spiritual world, your psychology, your relationships, um, those types of dreams. And then there are dreams that have the full spiritual connection where they're more real than real and you're basically in the spirit world. Sometimes you have OBEs, and those are very powerful dreams. Sometimes you show in the future. Dreams especially have some of the most powerful communication. And then when I wake up, there's that validation there, especially if it's a spiritual encounter or encounter with a spirit. For example, not too long ago, and you may have heard, some of you that have been on the show prior may have heard this before, but there was a spirit lady who kept coming to me in dreams, and she was from Poland, and I had been in Cincinnati recently. I think she followed me from Cincinnati, and she had a very intense presence, and it was a very unpleasant presence. I felt really threatened because she was just so aggressive. Um, but she was cordial to me. And she actually, did you hear that? I heard my name being called over a speakerphone here, and I'm using to, it was whispered. Did you hear it?
I do not.
Okay. That's a
Of course, I'm
spirit
not
coming.
wearing earplugs or anything, so I probably couldn't have heard it myself. But
I heard a spirit say my name in a very loud, whispery voice over this speaker that I'm using for this podcast.
it might have been letting you know that it's in the room with you, or that it's on the show in a way with us.
Yes, and probably supporting us.
That's
But and that was when I was talking about this lady. So this woman was from Poland. She had came to me in a dream, and she showed me exactly what she looked like as if in 1900, and she was a dressmaker. And she, she's very fashionable for the time. She had a broad brimmed white hat, white dress, young lady. She actually married. She has some children in Cincinnati. She was doing quite well. I even found what church she went to. She gave me her first and last name, and she started to appear. She actually appeared to me outside the house in broad daylight. I was just doing some yard work, and I saw this tall shadow figure under the carport that was solid black, and she just kind of receded back. And I remember her telling me in the dream, she had shown me her immigration papers. She told me she came here legally, but she also told me she was a very tall woman. And people were, question at back at that time thought, well, are you really a woman because you're so tall? She was just a tall lady. Um, and she developed a severe skin disease, and I think it was necrotizing fasciitis, very similar to leprosy. At that time, they did not make a distinction, and of course, they sent people to live in separate colonies. They took everything away from them and sent them away when you got a skin disease like this. She was very upset. She kept saying it wasn't my fault. And I would turn on the spirit box and she would talk through the spirit box. I asked, and I recorded the session. I posted on Facebook, and I said, what part of Poland are you from? And she says, Northern. And there was another spirit that kept talking over her and saying, oh, is she from Poland? She said, yes, Poland. And I asked her name. She verified her first and last name. And I asked her more, why was she upset here? And she said, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. After a while, and she started to appear more vividly to me. She would actually was in bed with me, and I could feel her arms around me, and she was pulling me down in the bed to get attention,
whoa.
really strongly pulling me, kind of forcefully pulling me down into the bed. And I said, I'm sorry, I have to go into work, and I would love to talk to you, but I need to do this another time. And she said, okay. She says, go to sleep, beautiful. And I could feel her kind of back off. Another time, she actually appeared to me, and it was just her head. I was in a room, I was sitting down,
Yeah.
and I saw her head peek out from behind the door, but it was only like a couple inches off the floor. And eventually, this woman came through, this another woman named Margaret Height, who's another spirit who I met out at Ash Cave at Hawking Hills. Very nice, sweet lady. When she was alive, everybody said how wonderful and how what a wonderful, nice spirit she was, what a nice soul she was. And she came through and she introduced herself by name. It's Martha Height. I said, Martha, are you going to help me cross her over? And she said, yes, I will. And so Martha and I helped her get her crossed over so she could be reunited with her husband and her kids. It was a very beautiful experience. I know I painted her portrait, and actually, it was a very beautiful experience. I'm glad it was like that at a higher experience. So she came in the dreams first, then she started manifesting physically and in an apparition form, and also through the paranormal equipment. and I painted a portrait for her and everything. And she appreciated that greatly. And that's interesting that spirit hasn't made itself known again. But I could tell you it was very whispery. It was kind of creepy. It was like, like that.
Oh wow,
That I
that's
just had here.
that's another thing too, because spirits can communicate through certain wavelengths. So you might be using your
Yeah.
computer or even a microphone or different things, and they have the ability to get into that energy field and communicate. I mean, I myself, I'm a professional photographer, so I do a lot of photography work, even for our paranormal shows that we do, Something Wicked, that we do. And when I do those shows, of course, I'm constantly snapping photos of different areas where there's alleged paranormal activity, spirit sightings, entities, and I'm using those tools. And being a professional photographer, I know how to go through wavelengths for different settings, so I can tap in. Like for instance, there was a case that we did uh, 4 or 5 years ago. It was right before the what everybody was going through at the time. And so we went to the location, and I was doing photography work, and I was trying to figure out where the portal was, because this gentleman had opened up a portal, and he was allowing negativity to come through the portal, and he has some pretty negative stuff going on. His house was really ramped up heavily. He had pyramids on the walls and all kinds of sketches and stuff. Anyways, so I'm doing photography work. At one point, I tapped in just at that right frequency. I found a portal on the wall. You could see the portal open, wide open. You could see the energy coming through the portal. And so I had to close the portal, and along some of the other teammates had to close the portal. We got it closed, but it's because I was able to tap into that certain wavelength, finding out what wavelength the spirits are on and what wavelength the portal is in to locate it. Otherwise, we'd have been there all night, probably never closed nothing unless we could pinpoint it. But so yeah, spirits and different things. If you get on that wavelength, you can find where they're at in certain areas of the house, even, and they can also come through you. They can come through your television speaker system. They can come through your cameras, even your cell phones at times. If you take a voice recorder on your phone and you start recording and just talk to whoever might be in the house, don't be surprised if you get a response, because they can communicate that way.
Yes, and I've had negative entities who didn't like me helping people, and they've come through my car speakers. They've come through my car speakers, but not the radio on, just coming through, speaking through the speakers. And I've had them come through my earphones. I just had the noise canceling one, no music, and we were having a back and forth conversation. This thing with a really deep voice that was trying to be intimidating to me. And I thought, well, I'm going to get a witness to this. So I grabbed my earphones. I'm like, I'm holding them out. And I can still hear them talking. I'm like, I'm going to hand them over to somebody in the house. As soon as I walked at the person, it switched to classical music, and I had no music on. I've had those experiences too. So yes, they can use those things. And I see somebody has a question on already. See, Chris says, did my pap move my purse and bedroom curtain this weekend? Please and thank you. I also think I may have seen part of his clear shoulder in an apparition. Okay, let's find out. Let's find out. See, I'm going to use some cards here. I'm going to use some rune cards here. Just go by what the.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please put the questions in the chat. We'll be sure to answer and say hello to you. And if you've had a experience with dreams, we'd love to hear about it. Let us know.
Yeah, and especially an ET. I've had what I feel like is ET communication through dreams too.
I've had that numerous times. I've had ETs come in my dreams. I've had past animal. My best friend, Himi Cat, came into my dreams once. I've had even my grandfather came into my dreams numerous times. And but they're there to send you their love, and they're also there to help guide and assist you in your life path. It's easy for them to come into your dreams. It's hard for them to come into the physical form once they cross over. Unless they got energy they can feed off of to help them manifest.
Okay, so let's see, Chris. Let's see if it was your dad. I'm getting Land Goose and Isa and Naughty. So Langus is the rune of flow. It's a rune of water. I'm going to feel yes, that he did. He was there. He's making himself known. And Isa, I'm being told by him, okay, specifically your pap telling you be patient. He has more to show you. Be patient with him. He's doing the best he can to communicate. He's just asking you to be a little bit more patient. Next rune I got is Naudis. So Naudis is the rune of protection and love. And what I'm getting, what I feel like he's trying to, it feels like there's something that he wants to say to you, something that he didn't mention to you while he was still in body. He feels like he has to get across to you. Um, but he feels like he absolutely has to say this to you. And he's just asking you to be patient with him as he tries to learn how to communicate and how to appear to you and how to best get your attention. And then I see Robert says on the earphone thing would creep me out and I would buy new ones. The problem with that is that doesn't make a difference. They can still use your radio. They can still use your cell phone. You get rid of one device and get another. They're still going to communicate on the new device. I've known this since I was a child. When I was a very young child, and we had a very heavily haunted place, and it had a very negative haunting. It was a lot of harassment. And I had a little tiny little radio, little kids radio on my dresser, and all of a sudden it turned itself on, full blast, and then the dial was spinning by itself, going up and down the dial, over and back and forth, at a very high rate of speed. And I just couldn't. I was looking at it like I can't believe my eyes. I unplugged the radio. I picked up the radio, ran it downstairs. I used a screwdriver, took it apart. I'm like, I can't believe we paid money for this because it's just a rubber band and a couple knobs, and there's no way it could have done that by itself. And they'll find another way. Even if you got rid of all your radio equipment and stuff like that, they'll still find another way. If it's a negative, if it's a positive spirit, they're going to find another way too. If it's positive, but they're going to try things they may send you animals, they may send you um, you know for example, with me, they actually took a caterpillar actually spelled out letters and runes on a leaf instead of acting normally. Instead of cutting, eating a leaf the way the caterpillar would normally eat, and literally spelled it out for me. Right, those are the positive ones, and the negative ones will harass you. So the spirit world is going to find a way to you because ultimately they're trying to help you, or if they're trying to hold you back. And your goal is to make sure that you don't hold yourself back, that you align your energy with light, so that you align on the right path, the right purpose. I know I've had ETs come to me before, and when they've come to me, they've kind of shown me um, how we perceive them and people's reaction. I know the last time I had a communication like that, they showed me a beautiful day. I'm out driving on the highway, and there's all these beautiful bright lights in the sky, and I see that they're coming down, and I see that they're ships, but they're not conventional ships. They're like, it's almost like they're not in our dimension. It's the best way I could describe them. It's like they're half in our dimension and half in another. And so they come down, and people panic. They say, "Oh, it's an evasion," and they panic. And all these people panic, and they're running around like, well, "Why are you running around for? These people can walk through walls. And they're highly advanced. Running isn't going to help you if they really were here to destroy us." And they started walking around, and they were telepathic, and they were reassuring people, and they were saying, "We have to take over this planet because you're destroying it. We have to save it from you." And the best things that we can do for you is teach you our way, so you'll learn enlightenment, so that you will take care of each other and take care of the earth. And they had such a feeling of peace that they brought with them. It was wonderful to be connected with their minds. Other people were running, but I just welcomed them because they were here. They had a genuine love for us, to help lift us up, and I was really, really grateful for that communication.
Now I'm going to ask a question for everybody here that's listening in the chat room. How many people have had dreams that they could fly? And if you want to put that in the chat and just say yes, I've had dreams like that, because I've had, since I was a child. Of course, I was born as a star seed. Now, since I was a child, I've had dreams numerous times that I could fly. But here's the thing: in a lot of these dreams, not only was I was actually flying. What I learned from that was that the ETs were coming in and visiting me. They were taking me on flight. But as a child, I could not remember all the details of that. I just had bits and pieces. Like, for instance, there was one dream I had where the ETs took me, and this wasn't a dream. This was, I say dream, but this was actually a reality. They took me, and I visited my school. We were flying up above. I could see my entire playground, the school. It was neat. And after that, that's the first time I remember flying. But after that, I had numerous other dreams I was flying with ETs. We'd fly all around. But even after years went on, I still had dreams I was flying with ETs, which turned out to be real. I had, hypnotic regression done, which brought a lot of that stuff back to me, which proved to me that those were not just dreams. I was actually flying. But other people have had dreams, because I work with a lot of people in MUFON. They've had dreams they were flying and found out they were real. But for those who are in the chat room, if you've had dreams of flying, please let us know. We'd love to hear. Here's one from, let's see.
And Brian had asked me on the earphone thing would creep me out. Well, and then he asked me something about blessing. Do you have any earphones blessed or something like that when something evil comes through? Now, I did have my car blessed by my parish priest, and it still came through. But when it came through the second time, it was weaker. And I was ready for their response. I was ready for the harassment. I'm like, you know what? I'm so glad you're harassing me and carrying this out, because all you're doing is increasing me in faith and heaven and the Blessed Mother, and there's true love of the universe, and that there's angels out there. Otherwise, you wouldn't be attacking me so much because I'm working with them.
Right.
And then it got real quiet, and then all this chaotic sound and music came on, and then it just went back to normal. Um, it didn't have a response for that. and and but as far as that, I mean, I do have holy water, and you can bless them, and then when they come through, they're not as strong, but you can be ready with a response like that and saying that takes the wind out of their sails. They're like, well, I'm glad you're attacking me because they know I'm doing a good job for the light, so go ahead and keep attacking me because it's only encouraging me to do more for the light. And then they have to shut up after that. They don't have any comeback for that. And I see somebody said I have a medical test coming up Friday. Will I get the answers on the test? So Brian, now let's ask the runes that question, and I'll use the cards again for you, Brian, because they're kind of easy to see. About the test coming back, I'm getting algaes, which is yes. I'm getting off of this like it's good news from your test. This is Algi's sanctuary. This is Feyu. This is money. And what I'm getting them is like it's a relief. Like, oh my gosh, I don't have to spend this much on healthcare. It's like, and it's from based on the test results. It's like, whew, I'm glad that's over with. Next rune I got is Burkana. So I've got good health and protection on here. So it seems like it's going to be good news from you, just based on what the runes are telling me. The runes are saying it's going to be good news, and it's going to be a relief because it's not going to be a financial burden as far as health wise, as much as you thought it was going to be, and it's going to be good news. So
Well,
Brian, looks pretty good for you. And somebody said here, Dow, I had a spirit turn off the electric clock and make it go back to 12 when it came back on. Yeah, I had a spirit. Actually, it was my grandmother who had passed. The moment that she passed, and of course, I didn't realize she had passed. It was like I don't know, 2 in the morning or something like that. And I had all these cheap alarm clocks I kept in a drawer. I lived in an apartment at the time. And I thought I'd just get a bunch of them because sometimes I'd wake up and I'd knock them over, and and I thought, oh, I better get a bunch of them because I might just beat them up. And my alarm clock went off, and not just my one alarm clock that I had set that wasn't set to go off at that time, but every single alarm clock that didn't have a battery in it went off in the drawer and were going off everywhere else in the apartment where I had them. And that time frame, that time when those alarm clocks went off, was actually the time of death on her death certificate.
No kidding. Now that is
So,
interesting.
so she was letting me know that she had crossed over, and peacefully crossed over. And then Dow wants a reading.
Right, and I'll
And her,
also here shortly, I will tell everybody how you can also communicate with your
mhm.
loved ones and spirit guides and even ET families for those that have ET families. There's different ways you communicate with them. We'll get to that here shortly, but let's see what Angela has to say in this reading.
Sure, and it says, Crafty, Crafty first. Let's go back here. Crafty, do I have a family member wanting to talk to me? So let's ask the runes, Crafty, and see if that's the case. So I got Burkana, and I have this a female wanting to speak with you. So there is a family member. Got Fayu again. And I feel like she's trying to talk to you, but it's like you're not getting the message. It's like you feel her around you, but you're not getting it exactly. Um, and Fae usually means money, but it can also mean wisdom, the near future, things like this. But when I pick it up, for some reason, I get like she's trying to communicate, but you're not quite getting it. The next rune, this is weird, and this is actually a bind rune. So this is past, present, and future together. And a bind rune is just multiple runes put together to make a new rune. So I'm getting off of this, the rune of weird. Like she's trying to use, I'm going to put that, she's trying to manipulate objects and energy around you so that you pay attention to her. Okay. And I feel like this, it feels like this is like a grandmotherly figure that's coming through and that she's trying to communicate with you. I keep seeing like, I keep seeing a shawl, like a knitted shawl, like a crochet shawl, with her. And I feel like and I feel like what she's trying to do, she feels like she's trying to put it over your shoulders, like she's wrapping you around it, wrapping you in it, to try and talk to you, like that you know that she's there. Um, and you might want to ask her to, you can let her know that you might want to try to make that communication easier. I mean, you could try a spirit box. You can try those tools. You can try, and there's plenty of apps. I really like GhostTube Seer because the EVP recorder on it's the best EVP recorder I've ever experienced. And then GhostTube will also use ambient information in the environment to bring images for you. Sometimes you'll get, garbled stuff, but then if you get an image that's really clear, like a clearly defined, detailed face or a scenery or something like that that's very detailed, that is from spirit. Okay, and you can use like those tubes here. There's VMS that has different functions too, or you can get a spirit box, a separate spirit box, and try doing that as well, just to let her energy, because her energy is definitely around you. And we have Dow who wants a reading today. So Dow.
Now, one thing everybody can do is when you go
Mhm.
to bed at night, always keep maybe a notepad and paper next to your bed. When you wake up from a dream, write down everything that you remember instantly while it's still fresh up here in your mind. Write it down instantly. And then next morning you wake up, you can look at everything you wrote down and remember that. Because there can be hidden messages, keys, things that your family members or loved ones or even spirit guides want you to know. But sometimes when you have the dream, you wake up, you don't write it down, then your mind tends to forget that information.
Right, and especially pay attention to dreams that repeat or images to repeat. And sometimes you won't know there's a repeated pattern until you start writing it down and you see the same thing happening over and over again. And it may not be something that's you can relate to your current life. It may be something from a past life, or it may be a spirit getting through to you and they're using the same images, patterns over and over again to get your
Right.
attention and to let you know what it's really about. Like for for the woman, um, Miss Platts, and kept coming through. She kept showing me the same imagery. Like she would show me, the clothing. Um, she kept showing me water. She kept showing me, I her these papers and old photographs and things like that. So the first rune I have for you, Dao Dao, this is Feiyu. When I touch this Feiyu, I get worries about money, but it's unfounded. It's like you have a lot of fears about it, but they're not going to come true. And I feel like you've got some fears about it. Well, he says, don't worry, those fears aren't going to come true. The next rune I got is Ewas. So Ewas is the rune of travel, relationships. It's moving forward. It's progress. And this rune is telling me that you're going to make rapid progress in yourself and like in your confidence moving forward in your life because because you put those fears aside. It's like you let go of those fears and you're able to make rapid forward progress in your plans and having them come forward. And then the last rune, down. Let's take a look here. Vorcana, which is protection, prosperity. And what I'm feeling over this overall, Dao is like, the runes are saying you can be reassured that your fears aren't going to come true. You can put those fears behind you, and things are going to work out well for you, better than what's expected. Especially when you see Burkana, because this is prosperity and protection here. Okay, and
Also, what everybody can do is another way to communicate with ETs and all that, or not ETs, but past spirit guides and loved ones, is you can take a voice recorder on your phone and just hit record, lay it down somewhere, just sit back in a chair, relax, and just talk to your family members and people that you want to communicate with. And don't be surprised when you play the recorder back because you can ask questions. You might hear their voice as they come through because your voice recorder is on a higher wavelength and can pick up a lot of the quiet sounds. I use just my phone alone. I use a voice recorder when I'm doing paranormal investigations at times, and I will get responses back. And in fact, recently I was at a graveyard putting flowers on some graves, and we had photos taken. And when you play back the photos, some of the photos you play the audio of it, and when we played it back, you heard a voice say, "Yeah, she's dead," and it wasn't one of us. We verified that. And there's been other times out there when we're taking photos or even doing audio and stuff, and we get responses. So yeah, just keep a voice recorder handy. Don't be afraid to just hit record, sit back in your chair, just talk. You probably will get responses.
yeah, and two, before you go to bed, too, one of the things I used to do, knowing that I had spirit guides, and I would actually write out my questions in a journal,
I was getting ready to say
communicate
that.
that way. And then when I would go to sleep, they would come to me and start talking to me and giving me the answers, their responses to what I had written down. That's another way, too. You can write a letter because they'll get that letter in the spirit world. They'll get it. And
And
they'll
another thing, go ahead, Angela.
Um, too, one of the things you can do is just pay attention. Just take the time to just clear your mind in listening. I learned Zen Buddhist meditation and some kind of and transcendental meditation where you simply are. Your mind is empty. You have no thoughts going through them. You're just focusing on your breath and just focusing on what you can hear, what you can see, what you can feel, and you'll catch things that you didn't notice before if you weren't just so distracted all the time. That may be communication from spirit. You might see light, You might get images or hear a voice, and it might be in your mind, or it may even be with your ears, and it's actually clear audience where nobody else can hear it, but you can hear it, and that you know that spirit is speaking only to you. And you can do that. Just doing that can make a big difference too.
Exactly, exactly. Even just before you go to bed, tell your loved ones, hey, if you want to come help me or give me a message, come into my dreams. I'd love to see you again, Papa or Grandma or whoever, and they will. I know people that sometimes even put photos underneath their pillow at night and focus on who they want to see. To focus on their husbands or wives or grandmas or even sons and daughters that have passed away unexpectedly, and they want to get that final closure with them.
Right. I've had my dog, like I said on a prior episode, I had my dog bark. And when I started talking about my pets again, lo and behold, when I turned on the spirit box this time, one of my spirit friends, she came through and she said, "Hey, Molly, come on through." And Molly was was a dog that had passed, and she was the one that has the most presence. Right? She barks, and um, she would follow me around long after she passed. And she's visiting, and I could feel her around me, coming and visiting.
And you can
And
definitely have more than one spirit guide. Somebody was asking in the chat, can you have more than one spirit guide? Oh, sure. You can have multiple spirit guides. Even your past animals can be spirit guides for you. They can kind of guide you in the right direction. I mean, I'll never forget one of the first times first time I ever really communicated with my spirit guides. I knew they were there. I never really had that moment that said they are there. I was in a meeting once. I'll never forget this. I was in a meeting, and in the meeting, we were all communicating with our spirit guides, and everybody was saying, "Mine's here. Mine's here. I can sense mine. I can see mine." And I just said to myself, I said, "I don't feel nothing. Mine's not here." When I said that, at that exact moment, I got a shove on my left shoulder. Just went reassured me that it was there. Okay, you're here.
and to answer your question, Brian, Ghost Tube Seer is an app, and it actually lets spirits communicate with images and with EVP. And I've had amazing experiences with this combination. For example, like I was telling Chris earlier, I was just resting and meditating while I was, on lunch, and I'm done with my meal, and I'm just resting before I have to go back to work. And in my meditation, I kept seeing this soldier coming up to me, and he had a gas mask on. And I said, "Why don't you lift up your gas mask so I can see your face?" And right when I pulled up Ghost Tube, I got this image of a very young soldier, and it looks like he's got a gas mask on his head.
Yeah.
And there's no input I can put into that to generate that image. It's the spirit that's generating, because there is no way you can input images into GhostTube. GhostTube is picking up, it's generating images based on ambient information in the environment, like temperature and so forth, to generate that image. His fella also gave me his first and last name. And if you take a look, I don't know if you can see that big star on him. So I know that he was a recipient of the Bronze Star. So it's only a matter of time to find him, because there's not too many U.S. soldiers that have received the Bronze Star for bravery. But he gave me his first and last name, so I only think it's a matter of time before I find his service record. But he talked very clearly through his spirit box, and I was also get some EVPs here. Now he hasn't been talking through the EVP part of that. He's been talking more through his spirit box. He has a very distinct voice. And then I've had quite a few experiences. I mean, there are other images, and sometimes some of the images that come through GhostTube are my spirit guides trying to show me future events. I've had images come through GhostTube, and then see that there's those similar images on the news in the next week or so. I've seen a lot of. I was in a cemetery once. In fact, I was in a cemetery, the oldest cemetery here in Cambridge. Was they have a cemetery downtown that is Revolutionary War
Yeah.
era, and then I got this image, and I kept hearing children, but in spirit. And then I got this image, looks like children crawling out of the ground. So I really like that one. I mean, it's good validation. I mean, if you're doing a paranormal investigation and things like that. And of course,
Oh
I do
yes.
spirit artwork. Spirits. I paint what spirits show me and paint what they look. This is a work in progress I'm doing, so I thought I would show this to you.
Oh
And
great. That is nice.
it's not nearly finished, but this is where it is so far. And if you want to watch it progress, you can just go to my Facebook page because I post the images of the progression of the painting, and then I go into what I'm getting off of that, why I got that image. And let's see if anybody had any other questions. And he said, ask your guides to help you remember your dreams. It also works. Yes. One of the things I do with remembering dreams, if all I remember is a color or a word, to start with that, because that can be like a trail that unfolds the rest.
Yeah.
You can also remember the feeling that you had. Sometimes just the feeling that you had will get you to remember. And then I'll start, okay, was I inside? Was I outside? Was I with friends? And what you eat before bed is important too. If you want to have vivid dreams, a lot of people, if you eat an egg before bed, because eggs have a lot of B vitamins, you tend to have vivid dreams.
Yep.
And you can actually read about that. I mean, oatmeal is another one I read that was supposed to help with dreams. Um, they're helping having vivid dreams so that you are more easily able to remember and recall them. And for me in dreams, I usually dream in vivid color, where I have a
Mhm.
family member that only dreams in black and white, which I find is very weird. It's very weird to me, but because I always dream in so much color. But every once in a while, I'll have dreams that'll be in color, and then part of it will be in black and white. Like I said, pay attention to repeating dreams, because sometimes that's memories from a past life is bleeding through and into your dreams that you wouldn't. And you might want to go to somebody here like Chris and do a past life regression, go back to that dream, and in the past life may reveal itself.
Oh yeah. In fact, I've had dreams. In fact, one dream in particular that I had, I'll never forget this. The dream was so, in a way, it was terrifying because I was being chased. But what I come to learn was I had a lot of my mind going on that those couple of weeks leading up to this dream. Had a lot on my mind. I couldn't get something that I was trying to get figured out which way to go in life, which way to go. I had this dream. I was being chased and I was going to be killed. But when I came out of the dream, my mind was more clear because I realized what they were doing in my dreams. They weren't trying to harm. What they were doing to me was they were trying to get me to realize what the proper direction was I needed to take. And I don't want to go into too many details on that, but once I realized when I came through, woke up from the dream, I realized, okay, I know what the correct path is. And when you have dreams at night, don't be afraid, like I said, to write things down. Make notes of what you remember. You might realize those things that are hanging over your head, like the certain things you're worried about, or career, or job, even family. Once you write your dreams down, you may come. There's things may become a lot more clearer.
And somebody asked, Brian said, have you ever had the same image come through more than once, like a spirit getting your attention? Absolutely. It goes to, but in my dreams. And in fact, I had this same spirit show up in a dream, and he immediately appeared in Ghost Tube, the same spirit, same person in my dream. Now, I'll show
That
you.
is that is strange, freaky, I should say, in a way.
This is the guy who showed up in my dream and actually was more in a nightmare and woke from that. And this is him. This is the same person, one and the same. And if you might recognize his face, if you know your World War II history, he was a famous war criminal. And I probably won't go into too much details because it was really horrific what he did to people, and he was rightfully executed. Um, but he was trying to get my attention and tried to intimidate me, and he had to face some judgment. And some of the images in the dream was actually some of the things that he was actually known to do. But then I had other spirits that came through from the same era that were there to help me with that, right?
Yep.
They were supporting me. You had this young soldier that came through. We had a really good conversation too. Um, and I have friends on here, right? There are spirit friends that have come through on this. Some of them are just sending me images because this is what they're trying to communicate, but other times there are friends, like this fellow. He actually showed up in the physical at work like 30 years ago, appeared in front of me, and he's an angelic figure. He's one of my guardian angels. He's one of my spirit guides.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was at work um, years ago, and I was working late, and I was the only one in the building. And I felt somebody watching me. I felt I was being watched, but
Yeah.
it was loving. It was a loving presence. It felt so loving and kind and warm. And I looked up, and this is who I saw. And like this was 30 years ago, and he just showed up on GhostTube like this past year. And then Crafty says, "How does that not scare you?" Well, it's par for the course. Um, it's just like if you grew up in a tough neighborhood, in a rough neighborhood, you kind of know the drill, right? Um, you kind of, if you grow up in a kind of a tough neighborhood, you learn self defense. I did learn self defense in real life. You're kind of used to it. It's like it doesn't scare you because you're used to it. It's like, okay, here we go. Here we go. I know how to handle it. And I know not to be afraid, and I know to stand up for myself. And I stood up to him in the dream when that man came through, stood up to him. He tried to manipulate my dream. I was going into a building, and I would want to go down this corridor, and that corridor would disappear and become a wall. And then I went into this room, and all this fountain, geyser of blood just poured out of the dream and everything. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not afraid of you. And I'm going to stand up to you. And I'm going to bring all this positive energy into my dream. And when I did that, all of that negativity went away in the dream. I just took it over from him. I learned to stand up for myself really young to both entities and to people. And I made it a habit. Even if I'm scared at first, I'm going to act brave. And then acting brave, eventually I get into that I am brave. I'm not afraid anymore because I can hear the words coming out of my mouth like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to put up with that. And it's interesting how spirits respond to me on a paranormal investigation if they're bullies like that, if they're bullying other spirits, they're bullying the living, and I come in and I talk to them about it, how quickly they back down. They were all big and bad a moment ago, but now they have somebody that doesn't have any fear. They don't know what to do with themselves. Yeah.
All right. Want to tell everybody what we got coming up here shortly after this show. We have the Fright Files featuring me, Chris Harmon. We're going to be talking about some of the most unexplained and unusual stories that you probably ever heard. And these stories go from 1 clear down to 7. Each story gets a little bit scarier. When we get to the 7th story, hold on to your seats because this could be a rather freaky main event story. And we count down from 1 to 7. It's going to be a fantastic show. Be ready because that's going to really be a mind-blowing. And so tell people how they can reach you, Angela. Where can they go to find you?
You can type into Google, just type in Angela Boley, psychic portrait artist. You see my name at the bottom of the screen. Into Google, you'll see my website and you'll see my Facebook page. The most of my posting I do on my Facebook page, so you can actually go to there, leave a comment. You can send a message to my my online website. You can also go to my email address. If you go to my website, you'll see my email address. You see my link for my Facebook page. You can also send me a message through there. So you can certainly find me very easily. And of course, I'm posting. It's about every day on Facebook and on my website. I just post events where I'm going to be and their addresses and times and everything. And I do the same with my Facebook page. So easily I'm easily found. And of course, oh my goodness, the things I could go into that would scare people, but that are weird. But I've also had, the spirit world, also brings comfort and protection and even a sense of humor to things. And I am very grateful for that because the spirits aren't always serious all the time. Sometimes they're good at creating jokes and sense of humor. If you need a sense of humor and you need a good laugh, let them know. They'll be happy to oblige.
Yeah, and for me, you can find me, of course, on Facebook on Otherworld Hypnosis for my hypnotherapy work that I do, and also on Otherworld Photography for my photography work. And you can also find me on MUFON.com, investigating UFOs and working with people who have had physical hands-on contact with ETs. You can also find me as well on SWPIP and all across social media. That's our paranormal show. And of course, coming up next, you can find me on the show just getting ready to start here shortly, the Fright Files, where I will be discussing some of the most unexplained and unusual stories you've ever heard. And it's going to be a fantastic show. This is our first inaugural episode. And Monday night's episode is usually going to be a little bit less scary, and Friday's episodes are always going to be a little bit more scary because on Friday nights we like to get to the frights, we like to get this spooky stuff going. So please stay tuned for that episode. Getting ready to start, and I think this has been a fantastic show. I want to thank everybody in the chat room. I want to thank Angela, of course. And of course, I want to thank all the people in the chat. You guys are fantastic. And make sure you come back here next week to see more of Angela and, of course, me. And stay tuned. I will be coming up next here shortly.
Fantastic. Looking forward to that. And of course, come back next week. There's more I can share with you, and we'll discuss more. We'll discuss another topic and ask your questions. If you have anything that you encounter in the week, you have paranormal activity or dreams, bring them to next week chat, and we'll discuss them. And I'll do the best I can to help you and answer your questions and get that taken care of because you want to when you start your dialogue with your spirit guides. It's a healthy relationship. It's a relationship that grows and benefits everybody in your life.
That is wonderful. And of course, you can find me all across social media. And coming up here next, I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to Angela. Thank you to the chat. And if you want to ask UFO questions and all that, please think up some good questions and send it next week here on the show. With that being said, I want to say thank you to everybody, and we'll see you next week. And I'll see a lot of people here just in a few minutes.
Great. Thank you. See you next week.
Thank you very much.
Mm.